Grummons, and this is a continual reading of the book Wheels. I decided to keep giving more than just the 8 parts that I had given before and try to actually complete this work. But anyway, thanks again for joining me. Let's get into the work here. Before we get into the reading of the book, I wanted to share something out of a book I'm reading by Osho called Trust. Okay, so the reading from Osho says, worthy or unworthy. And Osho says, it is not a question of whether you trust in God or you trust in Jesus or in Buddha. Remember it. If you trust, you simply trust. If a Christian says, I only trust in Jesus, not in Buddha, he has not known what trust is, because trust knows no distinctions. If you have trusted in Christ, you will trust in Buddha too, because you will not see any difference. Maybe the languages are different, maybe the ways of expression are different, but trust will always be able to go directly to the heart of the matter, to the very core, and will see that Christ and Buddha exist on the same plane. It is the same consciousness, the same awareness, the same enlightenment. If you trust Buddha, you will trust Krishna and Muhammad. If you trust me, you will trust Christ. You will trust Zarathustra. Trust knows no address. It is not addressed. Trust is an inner quality. If it is there, it is there. It is like you bring a lamp into the room. Now the light will not fall on only on the table. It will fall on the chair too. And it will not fall only on the chair. It will fall on the walls too, and on the paintings and the hanging on the walls. It will not fall only on the walls. It will fall on the floor and on the roof too. When you bring light into the room, light simply falls on everything that is there. So is trust. It is a light. If trusted, the kindled in your heart, then it makes no difference. You trust God. You trust Christ. You trust your wife. You trust your husband. You trust your son. You trust your friend. You trust your enemy. You trust nature. You trust death. You trust insecurity. In short, you simply trust. I thought that was really beautiful, and I had to share it with you guys before we got into the reading of my book that I'm working on and bringing to you in this podcast. But anyway, here we'll get back into Wheels chapter 9. So anyway, back to the book once more. When John Lennon was young, he was swayed by the occult and the lifestyle of free sex, drugs, and rock and roll. And this was evident when the Beatles listed Aleister Crowley as one of their favorite people. Crowley was so well known, he was listed in 2002 as the 73rd most influential Briton of all time by the BBC poll. Crowley was known as a poet, a painter, a mountain climber, but is most famously known as a cult leader. Crowley influenced many musical bands in the late 60s and 70s who were taken in by his exuberant lifestyle of free sex and drugs. It was Crowley's lifestyle that earned him the title of the evilest man on this planet by many Christians. Crowley, like so many others, did not start out twisted. In his early years, he was quite the visionary. He traveled extensively, studying different religions in India, Mexico, Egypt, and then he formed the religion of Thelema, where he proclaimed that he was the prophet entrusted with bringing mankind into the Aeon of Horus. Horus is one of the oldest known gods in Egyptian mythology. These so-called Thelemites believed the Aeon of Horus was supposed to bring mankind into an age of self-realization and self-actualization. These so-called eons were supposedly or thought to be different stages of time in man's evolution. The first aeon was the Aeon of Isis, where God was looked at as a goddess or a mother. Older religions of the East worship God in the female form because the earth seemed to be like a womb for existence. The second Aeon was the Aeon of Osiris, a period that took place in the classical and medieval centuries when humanity worshipped a singular male god. This was a time of conquering the world, the Iron Age and the Bronze Ages. A motherly god would no longer fit the male aggressive mind. God had to be changed into a male form. The form of God in an adult male form is still destroying this planet with wars. There have been over 3,000 wars in less than 2,000 years. So another form of God seemed to be needed by these Thelemites. Thus the third Aeon came into being. The third eon was the eon of Horus, the child god. In all these cases, God is looked at as separate from us. Although this seems to be an accurate description of humanity's time structuring a relationship with any singular form of God, it has a fault. Remember, always, God is in essence. He is the formless in every form. The relationship created between forms is really just on the surface. Underneath the surface, where the truth lies, in order for a relationship to exist, two are needed. Between you and your father, there needs to be two. Between you and your mother, there needs to be two. In relation to the Tao, all these twos are interconnected, even you and God. You are not separate. There really is only one with the appearance of two. You and God are one and the same. The formless and the formed are the same. God resides in you, and the Tao says that God is not your father, but the appearance is there. God is not your mother, yet the appearance is there. God is not your beloved, yet the appearance is there. It is there because God is an essence. An essence can be in any form and all forms. The scientists and the physicists are bringing people closer to realizing this, yet people refuse to give up old ideas. The problem with worshiping God in a specific form arises when you need God to be in another form. You are told God is the Father, but one day you plant a garden and then you see God as the Mother. Flowers blossoming, buoyant and fragrant, totally open for all to enjoy. Doesn't God seem to be more mother-like now? You stare into a young child's eyes, those eyes full of innocence, just radiating joy. Doesn't God seem more like a child than a mother or a father now? God can take any form and all forms because God is all there is. So don't be swayed by these occults trying to squeeze God into only one form. By doing so, they deny all other forms and create a split within the whole. This split creates an opportunity for one to believe and not to know. It all sounds true, God the mother or the father or the child or even the beloved. But this is how religions control you. They keep a huge part of the truth away from you, and in doing so create divisions of the whole within your mind. Once you create a division of the whole, you become trapped in a prison. Religions have conveniently packaged all of existence into a box and sold it to you very cheaply. Now you live in this prison, and all you know about God is told to you by others who also live in the same prison. Our boxes or prisons have walls made of ideas and thoughts imposed on you by others. This prison is an illusion. It is created by thoughts and ideas borrowed from others. I'm not saying that those thoughts are not beautiful. Some are. But when they are not authentic products of your own awareness, they become a prison. There are no instructions on how to get out of this box. The prison can be very beautiful, but it is still a prison. I know I'm not making any friends with these statements, but I am only telling the truth. Religion should not be like a prison. Religion should be like the fragrance of a flower. Religion happens only when you have so much love that you can no longer hold it in, and an explosion happens within your soul. When there is an abundance of love and awareness, a person radiates. He is overflowing with God's essence, and he feels blessed to share it. And this is what true religion is. Religion is climbing to the top of Everest and enjoying the climb. The journey may be rough and arduous, but the joy of knowing the mountaintop can never be forgotten. It'll be with you for eternity, but first you have to leave the valley and get out of the box of the mind. Those who have a little awareness can see existence through a window in this prison. But is this how you were intended to live? This is not your true nature. You are meant to live life to its fullest. Some have no awareness and are completely oblivious to how everything is tied together or how God can be in all forms. But please don't misunderstand me either. There is nothing wrong with calling God the Father or any other form of relationship. These are terms of endearment, and these are all forms of relationships that humanity knows. We use words to convey our thoughts, but words have limits. They cannot contain the whole, but they can give some indication. John Lennon was a man of great compassion and understanding. He grew into this. Once more, look at these lyrics. John sings to us, "I'm just sitting here watching the wheels go round and round. I really love to watch them roll. No longer riding on the merry-go-round, I just had to let it go." And I say, rarely is one born a sage, a mystic, or for the sake of argument, a famous musician. These three do have something in common. They are all forged. A sage is forged with the intensity of his love for the divine. A musician like John was forged by the love for humanity and the love for his music. Music is like godliness. It is enjoyed when we have an abundance of energy. John continues in his song, people say I'm crazy doing what I'm doing. Well, they give me all kinds of warnings to save me from ruin. When I say that I'm okay and they look at me kind of strange, surely you're not happy now, you no longer play the game. And back to the text. In John's early days with the Beatles, the music they created had a hypnotic effect on people. People went crazy over the Beatles craze, and all of the record producers loved this. The music they created was not evil. All of the Beatles songs were about love up until Paperback Writer. The record industry caught on to this hysteria and capitalized on it, thus giving birth to pop culture. Once the industry realized how music could pull people off center and make them go insanely crazy over it, they went in search of other talent that they could monopolize from. John Lennon changed as he developed into the world's most famous musician. He grew older, his music changed as well. Maybe he realized that his music was powerful and how it affected or inspired people. Later in his career, he started writing songs with deeper meanings. His musical lyrics now had a dehypnotic effect, and his music started helping people find their centers and teaching them how to appreciate living in the moment, no longer playing the game. And there were people who did not sympathize with John Lennon, of course. How could they trust him after seeing how the Beatles craze affected people? And in stepping out of the text, I also learned that I think John Lennon formed his own label and added to all this craziness. But back to the text. I mean, after all, he seemed responsible for this merry-go-round Beatles craze in the first place. A point came in John's life where even he had to let it all go. As Jim Carrey, a famous American comedian, once said, I hope everybody could get rich and famous and will have everything they ever dreamed of, so they will know that it's not the answer. It is entirely possible that the reason God chooses people like John Lennon to spread messages of deeper understanding or love is because he only accepts excellence. With excellence, God can reach more souls. Mediocre music does not have the same appeal as music that could change the entire world. So never think of music as good or evil. Instead of just remain centered while listening. Music is supposed to move you, and when you enjoy it, many people have been so caught up in the wheels of life that they have become a little cold, a little uncaring. They need music to help keep their sanity. Millions enjoyed the music of the Beatles. It enhanced their lives because they were centered, loving people. If anything, really, society is to blame. We created a society where we are molded, shaped, and educated to be nothing more than another brick in a wall. That's a Pink Floyd quote. When education became accessible to the masses, there was bound to be a rebellion in any society where people are conditioned to flow in the mainstream. If you could step back and just look at humanity, then you'd see a balance between conservatism and excessiveness. The more you try to enforce conformity or education, the more people will rebel. Rebellion is a way for society to remain balanced. There is nothing wrong with rebellion. Those rebelling now are creating a new mainstream. When enough people join the rebellion, it is no longer a rebellion. It has simply become the new mainstream. So never think of music as good or evil. Listen with your whole being and learn the art of transcendence. All beautiful music was made to help you grow, to help you learn, or to help you cope with life. It is our inability to be with the whole that creates good and evil. A partial soul surrounded by negativity creates the appearance of evil. A partial soul surrounded by positivity creates the illusion of good. These are both illusions created by the mind when one lives partially. A whole person lives in life's totality. He never thinks of life as good or evil. To him, everything, all of existence, is divine. Sometimes there is a need to listen to negative music. It helps you release pent-up emotions. Just don't get lost in the negativity. The same applies to positive music. But again, don't get lost in this life of total positivity. And the reason I say this is because your spirit can only grow when you create a balance between the extremes. And I'm paraphrasing here, but Osho has said, souls lost in negativity have roots but no wings, while souls lost in positivity have wings but no roots. People can see the rose flowering, and they can all smell the fragrance given off by it, but they cannot see the roots. The roots need to be deep in the earth, and they need nurturing, water, and attention so that the rose bush can flower. A life of totality, of wholeness, feeds the roots. As a consequence, flowers bloom. A combination of all the dualities, living neither in one extreme or the other, creates a centered, loving, balanced soul capable of experiencing wholeness. Every single day, mysteries of our existence are continually being discovered. If Kaliman's theory of unity consciousness becomes a reality, then humanity will have to shift its focus from duality to oneness. Humanity has evolved to the point where we can understand the teachings of Lao Tzu. And I'm not saying everyone should become a Taoist, but there is a tension created between people with differing religions. This tension is not necessary, and every religion has a common thread. Therefore, we should be able to unite as one whole and still have our differing points of view. Remember when I stated earlier that every religion is a separate bead on a necklace? One bead is called Christianity, another is called Muslim, another is called Judaism. The world has created hundreds of beads. And at the present time, all the attention is on the beads rather than on the thread. The bead is all that is visible, or at least all that can be generally comprehended. People do not see the thread connecting all the beads. It is there, however subtle. This thread it can be found. This is why a mystic can combine the sayings of Jesus, or with Buddha, or with Lao Tzu for that matter. All that is needed is to change your focus. The thread can be found. I'm not saying drop the bead. The bead is the indicator that there is a thread holding a necklace together. The bead is important, but the thread, also known as God, the invisible force holding this universe together, is just as important as the bead itself. A Jesus can talk using old Jewish scriptures, or he can talk about a Buddha or a Hasid. He can use the stories from other cultures and combine all of them because he has become total. You cannot do this because you have been living a partial life. You cannot yet comprehend the whole as one. A Buddha has become the thread. A Lao Tzu or Jesus has become the thread. They have done this through their totality, their wholeness. And just like beads on a necklace, the scriptures are all that can be seen or comprehended. How do you analyze something you cannot see or comprehend? The scripture should point the way towards the thread, not keep you away from it. The work of the scriptures is to make you aware that just like the bead, that you are hollow inside. Still, the mind can be used up to a point. The scriptures sometimes have to read between the lines. They can lead you to the formless inner sky. Reading scriptures should bring you to or lead you towards the center. They should plant a sort of will or desire or become one with the whole. Then from there the meditation can begin. A seed has been planted, but that is just the beginning. Much work is still needed before the flowers can come. You take the first steps, but this is where mystery starts. By taking these steps, the doors of existence have opened up for you. The journey of 1,000 steps begins with just one step in the right direction, and the direction is inward, not outward. The realization of the thread and its ability to hold things together is one of life's deepest secrets. And that's why I shared the passage in the beginning of this reading of the book of Osho's called Trust. Learning to trust and understanding more about trust brings us closest to our centers and to our own awareness and understanding of what trust is. Anyway, thank you again for joining me. I think we'll stop it here. The book's almost done. All we have left to do is to bring you the conclusion. But in the conclusion, I say some beautiful things too that I want you to hear. So we'll pick up with that another time. But thank you for joining me again. Thank you for listening. I hope this was a good series, and I hope you all enjoyed it very much. Y'all take care of each other out there.